So, going on to our bonus question, what is one adult learning principle that sounds simple but is often overlooked in course design? I'm interested to hear your answer on this one.
So I had to think about this one quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
And what I came up with is the idea that we talk about adult learners being self-directed, right? That's kind of a principle that they come in being self-directed. And I don't think we can have that as a hard, fast assumption. We still need to provide the scaffolding, to we can't assume that an adult learner come in is able to monitor and evaluate their own learning as they're going through that. We need to provide that some scaffolding as part of our design and make that to help that learner navigate that learning process. Because again, I think we all have I think a little bit different understanding of what self-direction means, and there's different graduations there. And if we assume that someone's just fully self-directed and we do a design, we may be missing a lot of our audience in helping them meet that learning outcome. So I think we can assume a little bit of self-direction, but we need to scaffold it and still help lay out that learning pathway. That's where I think we I at least in my experience, I think we take that self direction as maybe sometimes too literal, right? And we don't build in some of those scaffolding tools that a different level of self direction would need to be successful. Um, you know,
That's
and
true.
and again, I have a belief that anybody can learn anything, but it everybody needs something different to achieve that learning, right, that they're trying to do. So we have to be able to, in our designs, we have to think of how we're meeting all of those different levels within our target audience to help them achieve that learning outcome, right? Not everybody takes the same path to get to the goal, and how do we build that in there? And that's kind of when I was thinking about this, that self direction came up as like being that principle that could push somebody off a path, right, that's laid out for them because they're not as self-directed as that path was assumed.
Right.
If that
Exactly.
makes I was trying to make that make sense. It made sense in my mind when I was thinking through it. But
Yeah.
I really do think, we again, as instructional designer, especially now with all the technologies and we talk about AI, our role is going to become more and more and more of helping develop that pathway, the guide to bring that learner through the learning pathway that works best for them. That can be a challenge, right? That's where I think instructional designers will really be part of this whole process, and getting it set up for that learner so that they can achieve those outcomes.
Absolutely. So true. Because self direction doesn't mean they're doing it by themselves, right? Yeah.
Y-
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I think sometimes we assume that, right? If
Hmm.
we think about the principle just at face value, there's that assumption that, oh, they know they're gonna take the initiative and know how to do and navigate through this. I think that's a bad assumption. Lay out the pathway or multiple pathways, right? And
Right.
scaffolding for someone to navigate that.
Right. Especially in something like an educational context, right? Like when a student is going through a program, bachelor's, master's, whatever level it is, they're in that program for a reason. They're not there because they are self-directed and everything. They need that guidance. They're going through training, right? To become whatever that is that they're training to be. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's
so
good to
it's
put in
important.
those checks of self monitoring, right? Do
Hmm.
you add in some of the maybe low stakes aspects where they self assess where they're at? Right.
Right.
That's something that a fully self directed learner would do automatically. Right. That's part of being self directed. You monitor your own progress, but not everybody is fully developed that way, and so we need to build in some of those. Um, that could be even something as simple as like providing a checklist, right, of stuff that needs to be
Right.
accomplished within something as simple as that could help somebody that and to help them achieve those goals.
Right, because I get so many students in my classes, especially this first one, they've never done a portfolio before, let alone one for instructional design. So we have a program guide that guides students through that, and one of the sections is what to put in your portfolio, and many of them appreciate that. They're like, "Wow, I didn't realize all this needed to go into a portfolio." Whereas, a novice instructional designer may think, "Oh, well, portfolios. They've done them before," and you're and they assume they may not, give the students what they need to bring them that success when they go to that job, and They may have a portfolio that just is not good, right? And they may
Yeah.
not know that. So,
And
yeah,
and again, a checklist, right? If you put a checklist in a course, it's optional for the student to use,
right.
right?
Exactly.
As an instructor, right? If I have that tool available and I notice someone struggling, well, now I have something I can offer to the student. Hey,
Right.
why don't you try this checklist that outlines all the things you need to do? Or here's this guidance document that check this out and look at it, and it'll maybe help you, right? So it just allows us to be ready to help those students. Again, the goal is to achieve that outcome. And again, everybody maybe take a little bit different path to get there.
Right. Absolutely.